Okay, one more video. We are so close to being finished with this chapter. Thanks for hanging with me. Next, we're going to talk about seeking reliable nutrition information. So, in the third video, we talked a little bit about what not to do. Now, I'm going to give you some tips about how to find the right information. Okay, so you want to look for someone who is actually a nutrition expert, which can be kind of a challenge because there are no standard legal definitions for people who call themselves a nutrition expert, a nutritionist, or a nutritionalist. That's something that physicians and nutritionists or dietitians really don't share. It's pretty obvious if you are a doctor because you have a medical doctorate degree or a doctor of osteopathy degree and you've gone through a residency and you're board licensed. Same thing with nurses. You can't just impersonate a nurse. You have to have a very specific education path, and there's a specific licensing exam you have to pass in each state where you practice. But dietitians and nutrition professionals really sold themselves short a while back, and we didn't claim that word nutritionist, which in my opinion was very short-sighted. Not having been a part of any of these conversations because they happened when I was a baby, that was very short-sighted. So someone claiming to be a nutritionist with no specific credentials, like registered dietitian nutritionist, there is a certified nutritionist credential, which I believe I've looked up in the past and is actually a pretty good training. There's just not very many programs for that. So if someone's claiming to be a nutritionist, they need to be able to back that up with some kind of education. And they should write that on whatever site they're on. There'll be credentials following their name, or they'll describe their education. Because really that word is unregulated, and you could read a book about nutrition and call yourself a nutritionist tomorrow. You can call yourself a nutritionist today and tell people that eating dirt is going to cure their cancer. That is not illegal. It's stupid. It's wrong, but it's not illegal. Physicians or doctors, on the other hand, they often appear as nutrition experts because they are certainly health experts, but they get some grand total of something like 4 hours of nutrition education during medical school. So they often don't have the ability to accurately explain how nutrition affects disease processes. And on top of that, they definitely don't usually have the time to help people apply that to their lives. And since physicians are expected to keep up on so many things, medicines, changing treatment packages, changing screening packages, huge panels of patients, they don't usually keep up with the research specifically on nutrition and disease processes. So what you want to find is someone with a degree from an accredited institution or program. And you want to research the so-called nutrition expert, probably using the internet. Quackwatch.org is a great website you can visit and submit an Ask a Question email requesting information about a person's credentials from that organization's sponsors. They really want to help people be responsible and find responsible information on the internet. So nutrition professors and registered dietitians have been through very specific and rigorous education programs about nutrition, health, biochemistry, anatomy, and physiology. Nutrition professors usually have doctoral degrees, so not only have they been through a 4-year bachelor's degree, they've also done an additional 4-ish years of curriculum at a much higher level of education, and done an extensive project in researching nutrition. They usually have extensive educational backgrounds and teach nutrition courses and or conduct nutrition research at a university or a college. I don't have a doctoral degree. I have a master's degree in nutrition. So it's a 2-year program with a less rigorous research project. So I'm not technically a professor, I'm just a lecturer. But I do have a lot of educational background, both with my formal education and then with continuing education credits that are required for my registered dietitian credential. So, registered dietitians, or RD, or registered dietitian nutritionists, RDN, it's the same thing. Um, that's kind of a confusing professional conversation. This is the dietetics profession trying to claim the word nutritionist a little bit too late, but that's something else. Registered dietitians are college trained health professionals, so they've gone through a very specific regulated program at the bachelor's level and a very specific regulated extra practice hour internship, which is a little bit like a medical residency, but for dietitians. It lasts about a year. And then they sit for a national exam and have to pass a test in order to hold that credential. And depending on what state you live in, dietitians may also be required to have a licensure through that state, which means that the state has affirmed that they've completed the proper education to call themselves a registered dietitian. And in Kansas and Missouri, there is licensure. So let's do a little review here. And I want you to think through the 8 steps of the scientific process. What are the main ways scientists conduct nutrition-related research on humans? Walk through red flags to look for and identify nutrition misinformation, and talk about how you identify reliable sources of nutrition information. So we'll go to those discussion boards and answer those questions there. Thanks for hanging with me. I know this was long and not as much fun as being in class, but we'll get back to it next week. Stay safe and warm.